Hey, what's up, guys? Just doing one of my on the spots. A colleague of mine is rolling a car that I've been really admiring for years, and I actually worked on this brand for a little bit too, but just got the keys to it. So we're gonna go on a quick trip, just check it out, get an impression, tell you what I think, talk about what I like, what I don't like, so forth and so on. Let's go for a ride. All right, so this cockpit is quite a place. I mean, LEXUS always does really nice interiors. This was very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very artistic, like in a, I don't know, very Art Deco sense, but very nice interior, nice layout, good quality leather. The back seats look pretty spacious. I don't really plan on getting back there, but if nothing else, we're gonna just go for a ride from the standpoint of driving dynamics and performance. It's kind of what we're looking for here. I do like the fit and finish, especially the instrument cluster. I like that sort of tachometer with speedometer in the middle. It's very reminiscent of motorcycle layout, very condensed and simple. So one of the things I'm really interested in finding out is if the performance settings really do much. You got your Sport Plus. It's got the paddle shifters. I will say one thing that I've never found LEXUS to be stellar at is creating high performance all around. So you can get an F Sport or an F version of the car, but it doesn't necessarily translate into the same level of performance that you get in an M or an Audi S of any kind or an AMG. So AMG's kind of it may be a little, that may be a little bit far-fetched, because AMGs typically are really good from a performance power standpoint. They just have really amazing engines. I don't know about the handling on AMG. It's gotten better over the years, but I do remember it being more of just, you know, the grunt of really hard-hitting V8. Handling wise, it never really lived up to the finesse of what an M car would be like. So not that everything has to be that, but I think when you're trying to set your sights on something that has set the mark, which most of the M cars have done, you just automatically think of that when you get in a car that is being, you know, touted as a performance variant of a car that any automaker makes. So, all right, without further ado, let's go for a ride. All right, so as we know, LEXUS does not do manual transmissions, so there ain't one in this one. And one of the things that's always disappointing to me from a performance standpoint is when automakers, you know, do these paddle shifters, and the idea is that, you know, there's a true performance nature associated with them, and then you get in them and you're like, wow, this transmission is slow. And I find that to be the case in a lot of cars. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the story here. One of the things about the LEXUS that I recall when I owned one was that the power, other than the full F model, the power doesn't wow you. Like, it doesn't like burn the road up. There's a lot of noise being made right now, and you probably can't hear it because of this refinement element of a LEXUS. All the noise doesn't like intrude upon your, you know, cabin experience. So I didn't really get a loud, thunderous sound from the exhaust or the engine intake when I just accelerated. It was pretty, you know, it was pretty sedate. But I will say this, from a standpoint of just a really nice cockpit and fun drive, I think this car can definitely tick that box. You know, if you curb your expectations just a little bit, then you won't be disappointed, even though my friend said he's pretty disappointed with this car. I mean, it's okay. It's okay, but it is not a performance car. And I think when you think of the F Sport and sort of making it seem as though there's real performance going on, when there really isn't. It's just a very luxurious place to sit as you do your thing. I mean, it goes through the gears pretty quick, so I'm going to change this up. Go from eco mode, Sport Plus. That changes things up. All right, okay, so it ain't no punk. It's not a slouch, man. And it may not be a, you know, it may not be an M3, but it's not a slouch. I mean, here's the thing you got to be aware of. This is not a race car. It's a luxury coupe, a Grand Tourer, but it looks damn good. Let's go to manual mode. The transmission is, it's a little lazy. I mean, you shift and then there's this weight expectation where you're just kind of holding on for whatever's gonna happen to happen. And if you've got this car and you're like, man, he's really beating it up, I apologize. It's not my intention. I think for what this car is, I mean, it does what I guess it's supposed to do. The last time I drove anything similar to this was the IS350 back in probably 2009 or 2008. And I was looking to get out of my 330, which I quite liked. Traction control, there it is. Off. Right, we're gonna give this another go. I'm not trying to tear his car up, but I do want to see if it's got a little bit more excitement to give than what we've seen so far. I mean, because what's the point of a sporty car? This transmission is very similar to that of the very similar to that of the Acura TL my wife and I once had, where you have the manual mode, but when you put it in sport mode, you're able to shift manually. On our Acura TL, we had a sport setting, so when you put it in sport, the transmission would have different shift points where the car would be a little bit more aggressive in its acceleration. If you then engaged the manual paddles, it would automatically go into a full manual mode where you have to control the gear shifts once the car comes to a stop and resets back to first. So if you weren't aware of the fact that you would put it in that mode and use the paddle shifters to downshift to pass or something, it would automatically just default to the manual mode, and if you don't shift it, well, the car is not going to shift. So you had to be mindful of that so you didn't ruin it. Most cars nowadays, you know, they're more sophisticated, and so with that in mind, they will automatically go back to automatic shift once you decide you're done playing with the paddle shifters. This car seems to be the previous sort of consideration where it will not shift after you've played with the buttons and taken it out of the full automatic mode, if that makes sense. Kind of sucks because, you know, if you forget, then the car just revs really high. There's a whining going on in the sounds like the transmission, and I don't know if that's just an issue that's existing with this car, or if that's kind of reminiscent of these cars. If you have one or know somebody that has one and that's kind of something that you've experienced, please feel free to share that information, because I honestly don't know. This is kind of a nice surprise for me to drive this car, because I don't really think of Lexus as a performance brand. Not from the standpoint of the road cars that you'll buy for your everyday driving. I mean, they do race, but I just don't see them really producing true performance cars. You can get an F of whatever it is you're buying, and it'll have a really robust engine, even though it's a little bit out of date. The V8 that they use for that is now really not really up to par with what the force-induced 6 cylinders that other OEMs are using will do. But nonetheless, I mean, it's the ability to give you, as a consumer, the quality and build of Lexus with a little bit more power, a little bit more, you know, excitement. But it's never going to quite be what some of the other makers have, you know, rested their laurels on in terms of high performance divisions that produce cars that really put a grin on your face. I think this is a great car if, you know, you want a stylish car, you want a quality build, you want something that does have some life. I mean, it's not slow. It's not slow at all. But it's also not pulse quickening. It's cool. It's very pretty. I'm not going to rush out and buy one. If I don't drive another one, I won't be upset. But again, it's a cool car. Performance, it's not. All right, so anyway, that's my drive in this car. I hope you guys have found it entertaining. It's a very spontaneous occurrence. I was just in a meeting and I came out and I was talking to a colleague, and we were talking about the car company that we work for now, and I was like, well, what do you drive? And he told me. I was like, you know what, I got to get those keys. Glad I did. All right, guys, till the next time, all-wheel drive.